Hey everybody, welcome to Sell Yeah, the 8-Fig podcast segment that features interviews with a wide array of our valued partners and sometimes seller customers to spread the good word about what they're doing to bring value to the e-commerce space and make for a better ecosystem for us all. I'm your host, as always, Sam Bell, and just so happen to be the partnerships manager with 8-Fig. So again, I appreciate you tuning in to hear more about our esteemed partners. I'd be remiss if I didn't note that this was our second ever episode, so thanks for tuning in again. We'll surely have a pretty exciting chat today, as our guest is an impressive one. Please welcome my friend and loyal 8-Fig partner, Ben from Seller Candy. Ben, thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, what's going on, man? It's great to be here and feel honored to be part of the early stages of the podcast, right? Second episode. I was giving you a little grief before this started that I was not on the first one, but that's okay. I'll settle for the second one. So yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no, thanks again for joining, man. I'm really looking to chatting with you. For those who might be meeting Ben for the first time, Ben's an e-commerce legend and is the head of sales and marketing at Seller Candy. He and his veteran team help to provide Amazon sellers with unlimited support solutions inside Seller Central. This comes in the form of ticketing systems, revenue recovery, and a load of other useful tools that I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit more about. The primary benefit here is a solution built by Amazon sellers for Amazon sellers, founded by a 7-figure seller, in fact, and it really just takes the guesswork out of navigating support from Amazon, which we all know can be pretty difficult at times. So basically, Ben is out here doing God's work in an ever-changing landscape that is e-commerce. So anyway, Ben, thanks again for joining. Really, really excited to chat with you. We're excited to have you on. And even from chatting at SellerCon last week, in Austin, shout out amazing.com for putting on such a great show. It was really great catching up with you, and I kind of wanted to continue that conversation. You have a pretty interesting, diverse background when it comes to Amazon and even selling. So take us back to like day one. How'd you get started in the e-commerce space, and what led you to Seller Candy?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll try not to rehash everything we talked about last week because we met for coffee one of the mornings, and I think I told you my life story already. But to kind of give the viewers some context, I've been in kind of the Amazon e-commerce world for a little over 6 years now. So pretty much my first experience out of college was doing door-to-door sales, and it was a really challenging role, but it was definitely a great learning experience. But I always kind of kept coming back to this idea of like, I can only knock on so many doors per day. What if I could sell my products, in a very scalable way online? And then I think I found an ebook or a podcast about Amazon, and that kind of piqued my interest. And so I started, I found Scott Volker. I don't know if you ever listened to him, but he would always talk about the garlic press. I don't know if he's the one who really made the garlic press kind of the joke of the Amazon industry, but I just would voraciously be listening to his podcast and, just kind of like trying to learn as much as I can about this space. So that was where I kind of piqued my interest. And then I ended up, after I finished that door-to-door sales job, going and working for a guy who is doing a lot of wholesale and liquidation type stuff. And he was, at that time, fairly large on Amazon. So I actually was the guy working with him to package things up, send them back into Amazon. And we're talking big name brands, right? I did that for about 2 years. So I wasn't doing advertising or anything fancy there. It was literally just processing lots of liquidated goods, packing them back up, sending them into Amazon, and that was pretty much it. So that was kind of how I cut my teeth. I'm happy to kind of give you the next few stages, but there are definitely several of them, so I don't want to bore the listeners. But yeah, I don't know. I'll pause for a second.
No, you're good. That's all really meaningful. I knew you had a pretty diverse sales background, but really being the boots on the ground and getting that experience sounds like it was pretty meaningful in what led you to eventually get to Seller Candy. So I know, in your experience with Seller Candy and kind of starting out, being the sales and marketing head, leading that on a global scale, how did you get introduced to the brand? You weren't one of the founders, correct? No, you were kind of part of the team that started building it out from day one, though.
Yeah, so I wasn't so I'm not the founder. Our founder is John Cavendish. I did know him though from so he previously ran a full service Amazon agency, And that was kind of where my journey led. But I eventually wound up working for him. I had met him through, I think, the Dynamite Circle. So shout out to those guys. But when I was looking for my first remote job before, and this was even before COVID, so I actually worked for him at his agency and managed, a variety of different brands. He ended up exiting that agency, and I stayed with the new owner. So I continued, doing the brand management side of things. And during the time I was with the new owner, he actually went and then founded Seller Candy. And I know it didn't take, it took a little bit of time for it to actually take the shape that it has now, right? Like I know that, I don't know John's full, every single thing that he tried, but I know there was a time where he was kind of messing around with just kind of focusing more on like the graphic design pieces or various components. But ultimately, like and I think a lot of the learnings that he had from the agency world, and he was also a seller, a 7-figure seller, as they like to say. No, he wasn't an 8-figure, just 7-figure seller. But he, between the agency and between that experience, learned that, it's challenging. You can't really say that everyone will be successful on Amazon, right? Like we certainly, of course, you can keep trying and eventually that's going to give you a better chance of being successful. But the one thing that we know is inevitable is if you do start selling on Amazon, you are definitely going to run into problems, right? And it might not happen right away. Now I talk to a lot of sellers on a weekly basis and sometimes they don't have any issues yet, which is, I always just tell them, enjoy it while it lasts because it's not always going to be this way. But inevitably you will run into challenges. And so that was kind of what led to Seller Candy becoming a thing, is finding a way that we could actually serve those people, and kind of deal with all of the challenges that come up on Amazon. Those are big pain points for people, right? It doesn't matter where you're at in that selling journey. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really fascinating, and much to the dismay of some of the know-it-all gurus and influencers on Instagram who try to glorify selling on Amazon, which it can be extremely lucrative and very successful. There are a lot of challenges that come along from it, so beware. But you guys doing some amazing work to help out these sellers and whatnot, and I kind of want to extrapolate that a little bit further. What are some of the most common challenges that you find sellers face when they come to you or just in general, and how are you guys helping to overcome them exactly?
Yeah. So, Sam, remind me real quick. Have you sold on Amazon? Like, have you personally sold on Amazon too much? I know you have some other stuff you've been messing around with, but Amazon, is that not part of the equation yet, right?
No, not yet. At least a little bit of Shopify experience, but that's
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there. But just a tiny bit.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I like to say, normally the two kind of things I see are maybe get on 10-ish calls a week with sellers or agencies, and they either have an issue immediately that I always joke, I need to bring an Amazon therapist on my calls with me because people are freaking out. They either already have one specific issue and they just want help with that. But when we step back and look, or they want help kind of on the other side with just day-to-day and the operational stuff that's going to happen. The most common thing, so we looked actually last year at the end of the year at about 15,000 tickets that we had received through our system. And the most common thing by far, so about 30% of the ticket volume was related specifically to some sort of listing issue, whether that means a suspended listing, help with variating a listing or fixing parent-child variations. A lot of other common ones I hear about are updating the brand name, maybe you need to now update and put GS1 certificate or GS1 barcodes because you bought them non-GS1 before, which was okay at that time. But those are kind of a lot of the common things. But the blanket category is really just listing updates or fixes or setup and anything pertaining to that, right? That's what we personally see the most. Aside from that, there's so many different issues, but that's definitely the most common thing.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. So yeah, listing is a big part of it, right? And do you guys help with like listing optimizations or anything along those lines, or is it mainly just changing what's in there, getting through to somebody on the Amazon side that can help, or how are you guys helping out with those tickets?
Okay, yeah. So I haven't really clarified that. So Seller Candy, like what we do, what makes us kind of unique in the space is that we actually don't do two things. We don't do PPC. So we're not like what you would consider a traditional Amazon agency because we don't do advertising, which is what most agencies, that's a big piece of what they do. And we don't do graphic design or copywriting. So we don't actually do like keyword research, listing optimization. Our team instead focuses just on kind of the operational stuff. So for example, if you were a seller and you came to me and said, hey, I have a new title, new images, and a bunch of new keywords. Can you guys go and upload them and make sure that they get live on my listing? Then we will go and take that and run with it. But Seller Candy, we kind of focus on everything else that might come up, right? So anything that is not PPC or graphic design copywriting. And the nice thing is that we kind of act as an extension of your team. So we are more on like the reactive side, generally speaking. But we did this intentionally so that either sellers or agencies, which we partner with both, can use us pretty much however they want to use us. So we have a nice ticketing portal. You pretty much just submit everything there and ask us or tell us what you want what you want done, and then we're going to go and execute on it. And yeah, I think the other thing too, just to pull back to your question from earlier, is you asked kind of how we specifically can help, and the kind of commonality here is everything that we're doing at Seller Candy is something that you technically as a seller or as an agency owner, operator, brand manager, what have you, could do on your own. That's not the value add. The value add is that at a certain point, you should not be the person that's doing that, right? If you're a small business owner and you're trying to grow and scale, or you're, let's say, an online arbitrage seller, or you're in an agency, you have probably some priority tasks that are really where your time should be focused. And your time should not go to the things like uploading flat files or getting on the phone with seller support for 3 hours a day, right? And those are kind of the things that I say, give to our team. We'll take that off your plate so you can specialize in the things that you do best. So I think kind of that's the unique value out of what we have.
That's a great point. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like, especially in the entrepreneurship space, and anyone who's selling on Amazon or starting their own business can really get caught up in the minutia, right? There's a lot to do every day. And really what that does is it can cripple your scale, as you're trying to grow your business and figure out the best processes and operations for what you want to get done. You're not thinking about growth. You're not thinking about strategy. You're getting caught up in everything you need to do. So you guys are providing what seems to be a pretty invaluable service to sellers, and it's really interesting to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, totally. And I guess, kind of in that same vein, do you have any like specific success stories that stand out in your mind where you were able to crush it for a seller, right? They came to you, you solved all their problems, something along those lines that you'd be able to share?
Yeah. So, I mean, like we do have obviously our kind of pre-made template or our testimonials that you can go check out on our website. But like, I mean, beyond that, there's tons of, like, we get feedback from a lot of our clients, right? And I can think of, because I normally get to talk to them at the start of their experience with us and then hear about it, like normally I'll check in with them as they kind of are clients with us. I get to hear a lot of that feedback. And like, there are some really cool stories of, I'm thinking of this one guy who had one of his European markets had been suspended for literally 5 years. I can't remember the exact issue, but he pretty much had already tried several other agencies over the years. And also that length of time normally makes the issue very, very tough to resolve. And it took us a month on that, but we ended up getting it fixed and he was like over the moon, right? So there's those kind of like heartwarming things where like you can see that we don't have like a silver bullet or anything special, but just by following the processes, having the experience and knowing what needs to get done, we have had some major wins like that are just really gratifying for our team. I was on the Post Purchase Pro, their webinar, I think like right before SellerCon, and it was the best shout out ever. It was like perfectly timed. I had just gone through my whole presentation, and some guy, I won't say his name, but had literally put in the chat, like, I signed up for Seller Candy 6 months ago and they have changed my life. And that was like perfectly timed. I did not pay him, but I feel like he was just right there when I needed him to be there. So yeah. And then we have like, the other cool thing is we can support sellers really at all different stages of the game, right? Because we have 70-ish agents now, so we can scale up and down with you. So we have people that are newer sellers that really just need help with kind of the basic stuff. And we can be there to support them. And then we can support also those sellers that maybe are further along in the journey. We've had multiple people that have actually gone up to the stage of exit, and we've helped them get ready for an exit, for example, and kind of clean up listings or do some of those things that are necessary before they, go through and have the due diligence done. So there's plenty of rewarding stories like that.
Yeah.
So
no, that's awesome to hear. And yeah, you guys are providing a very special service and preparing, sellers towards an exit, right? That's could arguably be the ultimate goal for somebody who's starting out their journey. To hear that you have a part in that is pretty impactful. So thanks for sharing a little bit more there. I think the next question that kind of comes to mind, about Seller Candy, or maybe you personally, is what sort of emerging trends or technologies do you see shaping the future of e-commerce and maybe Amazon, right? And how are you staying ahead of the curve? How would you tell others to stay ahead of the curve? What's Seller
Sure.
Candy doing to approach those? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was just having this conversation because, we were at SellerCon together last week. So, and a lot of times the speakers really kind of help dictate what those trends are, right? We had a lot of great people that were just talking about PPC and kind of things that we know, but certainly AI, right? AI is definitely a big in the conversation right now. Really curious to see how that plays out. I think I loved Amy Weiss's thing. So shout out to Amy Weiss, but was on a panel and gave a great step-by-step walkthrough literally of how she took a product and used chat gpt and then midjourney to get mock-ups of the actual, it was a wallet, and then got PickFu, I think, to have split test the images after she got 3 mock-ups. And then once she found which was the best one, she then went and actually got it produced, and it's going live on Amazon like this week or something. And that's just one of like countless ways that AI could definitely influence the space, right? Beyond that, like I think that certainly social media, TikTok is still a big thing. And I've certainly had a lot of conversations with people that are in kind of the early stages of mentioning that they're interested in maybe they were hardcore Amazon sellers, but interested in expanding to platforms like Walmart, or really getting more into their direct to consumer site. That's not as much of an exciting topic. But I think that's still in the mix, and I do hear it more and more in my kind of weekly conversations that I'm having. So those are just a couple. I mean, AI is probably the most exciting one, right? But yeah, I'd say in terms of, to answer kind of part 2 of that question, Seller Candy, we have a unique place because we have 200 plus Amazon accounts that we interact with. We do get to see a lot, and that gives us a lot of inherent, knowledge that we collectively can share across the team. And that puts us in a really good place to kind of know what's going on. Normally, the example I use is more so, everyone kind of thinks maybe their issue on Amazon is it's never happened to anyone else. 9 times out of 10, it's probably happened to someone else. But there are those trickier ones that are really outliers. And you can't always go and find an answer on a forum to that issue if it's one of those weird, unique ones, right?
Yeah.
We've normally seen even a lot of those outliers. And so I think that's kind of the nice thing is we will actually take that information. We sometimes have clients that'll tell us, hey, this thing always happens on our account. Here's the exact thing that's worked for us to resolve it. And then we will take that and actually start using that. And we will then, if that applies to another account, we'll also go and take that and actually use it as a strategy that we can implement for another client's account. And so those are some of the cool things that in terms of staying ahead. I mean, beyond that, certainly going to events, like we do is also awesome. But yeah, I'll turn it around really quick to you. What did you have any takeaways from SellerCon? Like, were there any exciting other trends that I'm missing here?
No. I think I was just gonna add. I'm pretty hot on AI as well. Using Chat GPT, Midjourney, some of the other content creation tools that I think, essentially can be the backdrop of your entire business. I mean, take what Amy Weiss is doing, for example, of producing a product and putting together creatives and content for a listing and launching it on Amazon. I mean, had you had these resources a few years ago when Amazon selling was starting to really emerge, I mean, you would have been a multimillionaire,
Yeah,
without a doubt. I mean, that's what really blows my mind. And I think what you find is some people are tentative about AI, right? They're a little nervous about how to approach it. They think, oh, will this replace what I'm doing? Is this going to take my job or ruin my business or something like that? I think what we all need to do is understand how we can leverage it, right? And use it as an integral piece into our equation, right? And make sure
for
that
sure.
we're getting the most out of it to grow our own businesses or grow our own personal brands on LinkedIn or something like that. It should be used as a tool and shouldn't be viewed as maybe a potential threat to, the future job landscape or something like that. And those are some of the big
Yeah,
takeaways that I got. And should I ever start selling on Amazon or kick up the
me too.
Shopify site again, then I can guarantee I'm going to be using those tools
Yeah.
to my
I mean,
advantage.
I think anyone who's probably watching this is, probably hungry to kind of stay in the know, so to speak. And, that's how I feel that I am, is like, I'm personally not doing a ton day to day with AI myself, but I like to know enough to be dangerous, right? Like I want to know what's going on, some potential ways that I can utilize it. And I think that's just a good way to look at things like this is, even if you're not going to go and master that specific thing, whether it's AI or something else, like at least know enough to be dangerous and kind of understand the language that's, an opportunity that is there, right? And
Yeah.
so, I mean, AI can be overwhelming if you're, I've messed around with a bunch of different tools, but the second I started finding some other tools, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, there's 1,000 other tools I didn't know about. And now I'm just like, wow, like I don't know what to do with myself with AI. So, yeah,
Exactly. No, I mean there's an endless list of tools out there, right? I think, a year ago when some of these trends were starting to emerge, I discovered an app called Wonder, which creates AI generative art, right? Which was really cool. You give it a prompt and it's out this amazing graphic, it's pretty interesting. And there's a lot of other tools that do that now. And what's more is that using ChatGPT to create content, create copy is one thing, right? Beautiful for
sure.
listings. Awesome. Perfect for the entrepreneur who's spread thin and wants to create copy in an efficient manner. But what's more is all these ancillary apps that are being developed around ChatGPT, right? Like Sheet GPT, for example, a plugin for your Google Sheets that can pull in copy from all over the internet and things like that and help you with your listings. So there's much more than meets the eye, and it can feel overwhelming at times, but watching the right YouTube videos, reading the right blogs about it can point you in the right direction. So not to go
Yeah.
on too much of an AI tangent, and
Yeah.
steal the spotlight, but it's very cool. There's a lot of tools out there.
No, 100%. I'm always careful when I bring up AI because one, I know so little comparatively, but also it's like crypto was, a year and a half or 2 years ago. So I'm always like, I don't know if I want to talk about AI, but no,
It's
I
so
feel
true.
I'm very hot on it. I think it's very interesting, and it'll be interesting to see on kind of the flip side what the platform or the companies like Amazon actually do to implement that. I know certainly they're probably I think I saw something about them coming out with a generative AI tool of some sort, and
Oh,
who
really?
knows what these kind of things are going to do or where they're going to go in coming years. So it's just
Who
something to stay
knows?
on. And that's one of the challenges, man. It's just there's everything moves at such a rapid rate right now. It's impossible for you as an individual to really absorb all of it. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. Finding a way to distill it down. I don't know. My friend uses Chat GPT all the time to just distill updates in like articles so he doesn't have to read them. And that's a great way to think about it too.
Yeah, and what's that theory? I think it's Moore's law, maybe, that states like technology's advancements
Doubles every
doubles
certain.
every year or something like that. So crazy to see where we've come in the past 5 years, in the next year, 2 years, what's going to come of all of this. But could just be the flavor of the month. Who knows? I'm not sure. The verdict's still out. But anyway, to bring it back home a little bit, I wanted to hear from you and kind of from the Stella Candy team. If somebody was just starting out on Amazon, let's say they want to launch a store, they want to launch a product, what is like 1 to 2 tips that you would give them to get everything in a row, prepared for their launch, and to set them up to be successful? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of going back to just one of the biggest things I've seen change in terms of getting started on Amazon is, it certainly has changed. It's certainly very possible for you to come in and start and win on Amazon today. So, I don't want anyone to be discouraged about that. I think there are some changes, now more than ever, focusing on building a true brand. And I think is really going to be a key piece of the equation. And maybe that's not on your first product launch, but I think you should kind of start with the end in mind, so to speak, and start, at least kind of thinking about that piece of the equation. I think that there also is a consideration you should probably have at least, and I don't want to give a specific dollar figure, but a couple of years ago, when I first started, it was like you could get $500 and order your first run of Alibaba products, and then that was all you needed to start. And now I think it's probably a bigger dollar amount than that, but it's still reasonable, and you still can definitely do it. So I would just consider having a budget, consider investing in your graphics, and in a very near world, AI might be able to do a lot of this stuff for free or a low cost for you. I think it already probably can. But yeah, I guess in terms of starting, quality product, have a good go-to-market launch plan. There's a lot of people that can they have great step-by-step pieces out there that'll go through like all that components of it, from, the PPC you want to launch to using things like Amazon Vine, Amazon Posts, all of that stuff. So I'm not going to dive too much into that, but quality product, good product launch. And then I think after you get like your first product launch, one, you're going to learn a ton, But then it's really just iterating from there, right? Finding ways to either improve that product or launch multiple variations or continue expanding into your niche or into new niches. And really, again, trying to pull everything together with one unified brand or several unified brands as well. So anyway, those are, I guess, just some tips. Certainly, again, it's going to depend on what type of business model you're starting, right? I'm speaking more in the private label realm, but there's also people are still seeing success with online arbitrage, retail arbitrage. I've done both of those before, so I know they work. And if you're low on capital, honestly, that's an amazing way to get started too. So that's a whole nother world though. Check out Chris Grant. He has got a lot of awesome content on that. So yeah, I don't know. Those are some very broad tips. If you want, you can reach out to me. I'm just happy to talk more, but
Yeah, no, those are fantastic tips. I mean, the product is, having a quality product is ground zero, right? That is so imperative for having any sort of success. And then from there, listings and PPC and all that. But great insight. And, if anyone wanted to reach out to you to ask more questions or wanted to get in touch with Cellar Candy or learn more about what you guys are doing, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. Head to sellercandy.com. I mean, you can pretty much find out everything you want about us there. If you want, you can also email our team at sales@sellercandy.com. I get emails about all of those emails, so I will see all of those that come in. You can even put my name in the subject line or whatever, just to make sure that I get it. But happy to answer there. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, super active. One other thing I wanted to mention, Sam, we do have, I don't think I've actually told you about this, but we do have an interesting newer service called Ask Seller Candy. And it's for really people that are at any point in kind of the selling journey. It's a free service right now. So you can actually go over to our website. I need to grab the link, but you can go over to the website and we essentially sign up. You get the first 6 months for free and you're able to ask our team questions as they come up. So it's a great service to have where it's not, you're not paying anything really for the first 6 months. And you get access to the experience that our team has. So from our 70 plus agents. So that's a cool option. I just wanted to mention, maybe we can put the link somewhere when this podcast drops, or you can reach out to me and I'll get you in the right direction. So anyway.
Yeah, without a doubt. No, that sounds like an incredible service. And thanks for mentioning it. Maybe we can highlight it, when this podcast episode goes out or, get it on the socials or something like that. But yeah, awesome. All right. That's all I had for you, Ben. Thank you again, everyone, for joining today and tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Ben. Thanks again so much for your time. Again, this is Sell Yeah, the podcast segment ran by 8Fig, where we feature interviews with our valued partners like Ben and our sellers to spread the good word about what they're doing in the space to make it better for everyone. So if you'd like to learn more about Seller Candy, head to sellercandy.com. And if not, reach out to me and I can get you in touch with Ben. But if you'd like to learn more about the sort of partners and providers that 8Fig can introduce you to at large, or simply just how 8Fig can help you fund your supply chain, please visit 8fig.co or reach out to me at howdy@8fig.co for more info. Again, Ben, absolute pleasure to have you on. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.